Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It is March already. Somehow February got by us without a recording, so we apologize, but we are here today and we are excited to bring you a new guest. I am Lynn Galliano. My pronouns are she, her. I live in the San Francisco East Bay area, which is the traditional territory of the Bay Miwok people. I am in recovery from an alcohol use disorder and lack mentality and anxiety and health issues and the patriarchy and everything else. And I'm a wife and I'm a mom and I'm a grandma and I'm a She Recovers coach. And one of my favorite things is that I am a Reiki master practitioner. And so we do this webcast and um, sorry, I forgot Andrea was going to go first and then I just jumped in there, started talking. Sorry, Andrea. Anyway, we just keep rolling when we make mistakes because that's how life is. So I'm going to kick it over to Andrea and then I will come back and introduce our guest.
Thank you, Lynn. It's so good to be here. Welcome, everyone. My name is Andrea. My pronouns are she, her. I live in Philadelphia, which is the traditional land of the Lenape people. I'm in recovery from alcohol, anxiety, disordered eating, lots of other things too. I am a licensed professional counselor in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. I'm a certified recovery coach, She Recovers designated coach, Reiki level 3 master practitioner. I am also a wife and a mom of 2 boys, or young men, I should say. And I'm also an artist, which is something that I'm exploring in my recovery as well.
Thank you. And we are so excited because I have been talking to my friend Akleema Ali for about a year about bringing her on this since we started, the concept of even having this YouTube channel. So I'm going to read from her bio. Akleema Ali is the owner of Reiki Lighthouse in Trinidad and Tobago. Her practice uses Reiki to create a sacred space for sanctuary for those seeking grounding, emotional healing, clarity, and an infusion of peace and calm into their lives. For the past 20 years, she has been an advocate for mental health and wellness. And the last 7 years, she has immersed herself into her Reiki practice. She is an avid contributor to Reiki communities and engages with other practitioners to share the transformative experiences of Reiki. And the way that I met her is I found an article that she wrote, published in Reiki News magazine, and it had to do with Reiki and ancestry and ancestors. And being somebody that is adopted, I have always been really interested in the connection to ancestors because I feel disconnected from them. And so I actually reached out to Akleema and we started talking and have become online friends. And now we're here today. So welcome, Akleema.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure, sure. What would you like to share about your Reiki practice in Trinidad and Tobago? Why don't you kind of start there?
Well, I was attuned to Reiki in 2017. So it's I would say it's only 7 years. For me, it's a short space of time, but it seems as if I've transformed so much over the 7 years that it's truly amazing. So prior to Reiki, my background is in school counseling. So I've done that for 20 years. And really, when Reiki entered my world, I started to view life and the way I heal differently. So I had the clinical background of dealing with depression, anxiety, and that was really exciting for some time, but I felt as if something was missing. So what I initially was researching wasn't Reiki. I was researching how to balance my chakras. I love reading about the chakras, love learning about different things. And along the way, I saw some information that said Reiki can help you balance your chakras. So I knew nothing about it. I started to research in Trinidad if there were any practitioners, does anybody do this modality? And I found a few people who were listed online, and I decided to try a session. So Lynn and Andrea, I went to this person and I'm on the table and she's very professional. She's doing all her hand positions. I'm feeling the heat. And I'm wondering, what is this about? After about 3 or 4 sessions, she encouraged me to learn Reiki. She said, it would be better for you if you learn it and you do self Reiki every day. She said, in the long run, you will save a lot of money and really this practice should be yours. But between us, I found as if that wasn't for me. At that point in time, I wasn't convinced that Reiki was for me at all. I didn't understand what was happening. She explained it perfectly, and something just had me distance myself from it for a while. And then that would have been in 2017, in the beginning. And somewhere to the middle of 2017, my sister-in-law and husband, well, we are all on this healing journey of trying to, raise our vibration, the path of a light worker. So we do different modalities. And they were so passionate about Reiki. They said, let us go and learn it. And I said, I'm not going. I'm not going. And they said, come on, let's go. You will like it. You would love it. We'll practice together. The teacher said, come with somebody so we could practice. So I unwillingly went to this class. And I was very upset because I found it was too expensive. And I had to use my 2-day weekend. But I would tell you by the second day, when we had to practice and feel like, the energy between your palms, and I did feel something very slight. I said to myself, I'm not too sure what happened here over this 2-day weekend, but I'm going to do the self-Reiki for the 30 days and see what comes up. And when I did the self-Reiki, I think I never went back. I never went back to anything else but Reiki. And what was interesting for these 30 days, every time I did self-Reiki, I fell asleep. I fell asleep. It was really deep. I was worried. I called back the teacher and I said, why am I falling into a deep sleep? And she said, don't worry, Reiki does whatever needs to happen. And she said, it's to make sure that it's happening on the subconscious level. She said, you overthink a lot and, you're just supposed to allow the healing to come forward. So I found so many things happened within that first 30 days that I felt as if like a calling, something was happening. And I definitely said, I definitely want to do Reiki Master at some point in time to truly investigate this type of healing. And if I do a further level, what deeper level of healing would be able to take place. And that's how my journey began. I was a very unwilling participant. And now I try and practice and live Reiki every day. And it's totally different. My outlook on life, it has, while I am a little bit more patient and understanding, I still find I have so many layers to go.
Yes, peeling back the layers. I love that. You were resistant and the universe had a different plan for you.
Definitely.
And I feel like Lynn and I have talked about this before, where going into, I knew that I wanted to learn Reiki, but my curiosity was strong, but I wasn't sure what my intentions were. I just felt so drawn to it. I know, Lynn, you shared about that too, and it really feels like it was something that you, like you said, felt called to do. And once you got a taste of it, it really did impact your own healing.
Yeah, and I can totally understand, being the receiver in a session, not being attuned to Reiki is one experience, but being attuned to what connects you to everything is totally, totally different. To sit and feel your energy and really notice what comes up. So for that first month, actually what came up for me was I had suppressed a lot of things from an abusive relationship in the past. And, I always felt as if I was so good at repressing and dealing with things. So at some point in time, some dreams and memories and stuff were coming up. And at first I was like, why are you coming up now? Because it's so traumatic. And then I realized it's coming up to be healed or to make peace with. So from that point to now, every time something from the past comes up, I always tell myself, how can I bring peace to this memory? How can I bring peace to this emotion? Or if there's something that is making me highly uncomfortable, how can I use Reiki to bring peace to this situation? So I was attuned in 1997. And then in the pandemic, I started to write. I felt a call to write how I practice Reiki, what comes up, and different techniques that I use. And then last year, as Lynn mentioned, I got the chance to write about ancestral healing for a client that I had. And that never came up before in any other session, except for hers, really, really strong. It has come up for me for a few individual like self-healing sessions or guided meditations, but client-wise, that one in particular was very, very strong. And then I realized that it is a pattern for everybody. And it comes up strong for some people because it is something, some deep level of healing that needs to take place in the generational line.
Did you have to, that's first of all, thank you for that amazing story. I love your story. That backstory is different than any that I've heard before. Like that you're so resistant and now it's such a big part of your life. So I love that. But did you have to do like any special training for the ancestral healing part, or it just came through you through the Reiki?
It came through the Reiki. It was so natural. It just came up for itself. And initially when I did Reiki, I did a couple other courses and, meditations and stuff along the way in the pandemic. And one of the things that I did was something called, I think it's Golden Ray Alchemy. It's done by a person called Andrea Ali. But so she has a lot of modules on healing, touch healing. And one of the modules she has is a different type of meditation for ancestral healing. And that was the very first meditation that I had done specifically to say I wanted to investigate ancestral healing. It was an optional component of her module. And I remember when I went into that meditation, you had to connect to a crystal and connect to Mother Mary as a symbol of the divine feminine. And it was so powerful. So they gave you this guided meditation. You're on a walkway to like a pyramid. You're in the pyramid. And in the pyramid is where they leave you to connect. And I remember I'm there in the middle of a pyramid. And they said, all of your ancestors are here. And the entire pyramid is filled with people I don't know. And then there's Mother Mary with her crystal. So you're connecting your heart crystal to hers. And then I see like my paternal and maternal grandmother, who I don't know much about because I was pretty young when they died. So I don't have any relationship with them. They are just present and a couple other people, but I distinctly remember both of them there. And I felt just a powerful love and support and energy headed my way, almost so empowering because the circle right around me was just female, a lot of female energy. And after that, I had a second meditation and it brought up the same thing, my grandmother's. And then after that, it comes up for itself. So sometimes I realize I don't have to ask for it. I may sit in a Reiki chair and something with ancestral healing would come up. It throws me off because it's not on the surface level of thinking, but clearly there is some level of healing that exists within me, within my family line, and within the line that people don't discuss. There are so many things that generations of my line have endured. And tons, even if you look at just the women, they say nothing about what they've survived. Nothing. Nothing. And even if they say something, you want to investigate. You want to say, well, why, why and how. And, you're so grateful for them for sharing, but at the same time, there's a lot of suffering on that line. So, and one of the things that came up for me for ancestral healing, Lynn and I thought about it when you said that ancestral healing is a profound thing for you as well, given your background as well, and not knowing where you come from.
Okay.
So even for me, even though I'm born in Trinidad, our ancestors are from India. But we have no knowledge of exactly where in India because of the history. So our colonial history is under British rule. When our island was under British rule, they took, now I don't know if you know, in India, there's a caste system, right? So you have high coming down all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And the very lowest caste, they recruited to work as sugarcane laborers in the Caribbean. Those would be my ancestors. And there's no documentation, there's no paperwork, there are no proper names for who are on the ships, there are numbers. So even for us who live in Trinidad to backtrack where our original ancestors come from, it's non-existent for us. And what we find as well is even if we have people who visit India, who try to, backtrack, what we have found is that unfortunately, there's a lot of discrimination because we're not recognized as true Indians because we were born in the Caribbean and not born in India. So the history of being a female, of being an Indian, but being born and grown up in the Caribbean has been truly eye-opening for me. And that is my part of my ancestral lineage.
Yeah. How do you how do you work through the healing for that? Like, is it just doing yourself Reiki? Like, and this is because you mentioned things kind of come up. Um, the universe brings them up for the healing, right? It comes to the surface, it comes into your awareness or your consciousness space. Someone like me who doesn't, feel as connected to ancestry, what would you tell someone, like, if they wanted to do some of this healing work? Where would you guide me to start? What's a good starting place, do you think?
Well, I think two things. I always believe in individual practice. And I do think like Reiki symbols are very, very powerful. And it's so interesting that you said that you use like the Daikomyo. The master symbol is very powerful for me as well. It's so interesting that you said that, as well as the distance symbol. So what I do for the past few years, I use the Daikomyo a lot because it is, for me, the simple explanation is to bring understanding that everything that exists in my reality is linked to my divine will and purpose. I may not understand the wider plan and purpose, but I do have to remind myself that exactly where I stand with whatever, oh, that is beautiful.
This is just so people can see what we're talking about. This is I forgot who did this artwork. I used to know her name. I bought it from Makoto Regido.
That is great.
But yes, this is the an artist's interpretation of the symbol for Daikomyo. Sorry to interrupt. Oh, keep going.
Yeah, so what I do is to bring peace with everything that has ever come up. To remind myself where I stand right now is exactly in line with divine will and purpose. And sometimes even if something shows up that I'm not comfortable with, I said, if this is not in line with divine will and purpose, then show me where I'm supposed to go. Right? So there's an individual level that I always believe everyone should take accountability and responsibility for their own healing. And the second thing is, what came up was I did a course on Reiki drumming. And that course specifically has a meditation for ancestral healing.
Mm.
And it was truly, truly powerful. So definitely I would say if you get something specifically really intense for ancestral healing, I would definitely say follow your heart with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wanted to say that you mentioned Mother Mary, and I'm not Catholic, but for some reason I am wearing Mother Mary today.
Mm.
Isn't that interesting?
Well,
It's not the symbol I normally wear, but for the past couple of weeks, I've just been really called to Mother Mary, and then that's something that you were talking about. So there's always these really cool like connections that happen with Reiki that you just can't anticipate or explain.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. I really love that because it almost comes as confirmation
Mhm.
for everyone, you know, in a
Yeah,
unique way to bring everyone together as well.
right, right.
Yeah. So one of the things that you had me thinking about as well. Remember I told you my major question when something comes up, or let's just say I'm struggling with anxiety. Something has triggered my anxiety, it's really high. I sit and I say, how can I make peace with this anxiety? But when I looked at it from your angle and the work that, the recovery work that you and Andrea do, I never had that perspective as if I'm in recovery or what am I recovering from? And I will tell you initially, even with a clinical approach, when we do like the history of a person, the history of a client, we always get the health background. Is there diabetes? Is there cholesterol, high blood pressure? So initially for a few years, I would view recovering from, we can put like depression, we can put anxiety, when we look at holistic health. And lately, when I started to get the signs and the imagery of what came up for the ancestral healing, I realized it was not just the anxiety. And even if I saw the anxiety, I saw it as if it existed like for generations. I saw like a long line. And I realized that it's not just my anxiety, it's an anxiety that existed throughout the line. There's also a lot of for Indian women, especially a lot of emotional and psychological abuse that takes place in relationships. And I remember at one point in time, I asked my mother, I said, why are we saying yes to this type of, you know, abuse? And I didn't say abuse. I said, why are we, encouraging the generational pattern of nonsense? I said, why can't we as women put our foot down and say, we are not tolerating this? This is our boundary. This is our standard. And she said to me, she said, maybe you can do that.
Mhm.
She said, maybe that's what your work is about. Because I think I was asking her really difficult questions. I was asking her really difficult things. And I think even for me, if I were to ask myself based on past things that I have survived in relationships, it would be really difficult for me to answer why I let some things slide
Mm.
and why were my boundaries not stronger? Why did I allow? So it was difficult, but it is nice to have a space to talk and to really say that these women have survived so many things and with such little, less resources than I have. They knew nothing of energy healing, nothing of, any type of meditation. I mean, there is yoga and, those traditional stuff. But
Yeah.
so I'm watching me, how I have used these modalities to survive and balance and ground. And while they are religious, at the same time, I'm sure it was highly difficult for them to live what they have, experienced in their life and then bring healing to that as well. Because there's a lot of things that we don't say, and there's a lot of things that we don't share because there are not enough safe spaces that exist. Which is why I really appreciate some people in the Reiki world. When you see what they do and the spaces that they offer, you can truly sense this is a safe space because it's so rare. I mean, I know from my experience, and I'm sure we all have had the experience of passing through different groups, different people, different collaborations. And even though they start off well, sometimes, there's a dynamic there that does not suit us. So we learn to move on. But however, when we find such a rare space that allows us to be safe, it's truly amazing what comes up. And it doesn't just come up for us or the person leading, it comes up for everyone that is present. Right? So for me, recovery is not just the mental, it's like the mental, the emotional, the spiritual. It's kind of like working together in a way, I don't understand. But all I know is that I use a lot of the Reiki symbols a lot, and they are so powerful that I trust exactly whatever needs to happen, whatever healing is taking place, not just happens for me, it happens for everybody in my family line.
Yes. And I like that you used the word trust, because I think that even just sharing about Mary in your experience, Lynn, those affirmations, right? That we know that Reiki is doing for us, what we need for it to do. I think we don't all identify as people in recovery. Lynn and I believe we come from a similar space where we believe that everybody is recovering from something because they're human beings, right? We all suffer in some way. But what I'm hearing is, for you, Reiki has allowed you to see how, as a clinician working in counseling, how Reiki can help to heal things that are beyond just the physical, right? Or the mental, but it's the spiritual, and that connection to all of your ancestors and how you can support them. And there's so much healing happening, right? In just a generation. Look at all that you have done for them. It's beautiful.
Correct. And, sometimes I wonder, I said, if, I try to imagine what my world would have been like without Reiki. And it's very difficult to do. And then I realized, based on my lifestyle and, the schedule of things and everything, that definitely Reiki came at the perfect time, because I appreciate it so, so much, because it is my go-to modality to, to sit and make peace with things. And as you rightly said, Andrea, we are all recovering from something, and that thing is called life.
Yeah.
It's all of the experiences and emotions. And you know what I've learned from the beginning, when they say logically, we think we know where Reiki goes. So even if we have a pretty strong, let's just say we're dealing with grief, and it's particularly heavy, and it's not going anywhere, we think we want to apply Reiki just to the grief. But when we allow Reiki to go wherever it needs to go, it goes beyond wherever in the line, wherever in the energy field needs to happen. It goes to the source of where that grief is. Which is what I appreciate as well, because many times in the early days, I try to pinpoint where should I send this Reiki to, what is needed to heal, and now I just send it. Sometimes I don't even say, like if I get a knee pain, I may not directly put it on the knee. It will just flow wherever it needs to flow, to the source of where that pain is.
Thanks for that reminder that we don't need to know. We don't, it's not us doing the healing. So we don't need
Correct.
to know. We're just facilitators.
Correct. And it also is, our natural urge is to think or overthink. And Reiki is not asking you to think. We've done enough thinking. We've done enough feeling. So what we need to do is just learn to receive. And I think, especially for my line, and I don't know if it exists in your family line as well, the ability for females to receive,
Mm.
sit and receive is extremely difficult.
Mhm.
We serve, we do a lot of the household tasks, chores, coordination. We're in charge of everything. But to sit and actually receive love, receive care, receive a compliment, it is very, very difficult for us to do so. But Reiki allows you to receive better so that we are able to appreciate our life and we are able to let go of the things that burden us. And that's why I like Reiki as well. It has allowed me to receive a lot more over the years.
One question that I like to ask is, how do you practice the Reiki precepts in your life?
Right. So the Reiki precepts, I do it different ways. The major way I do it is first thing on the morning when I get up, I sit in Gasho meditation, and it's a great way to instantly center. And I mean instantly center. Sometimes I get up and my mind is on the schedule of the day. And Lynn and Andrea, I can't even describe when I sit to do the Gasho. From the time I put my hands here, my mind is everywhere else thinking of the day. The heat is going to bring me back to my chest. The thumbs that are touching the center of my chest brings my awareness back to myself. And then I begin my intention.
Mm.
So I bring in the intention, I say what I normally want to say if it's grounding, and then I say the precepts. And I say a very modified version of the precepts. So how my version of the precepts were modified was a couple years ago, I had a a large cyst on the ovary that I did not know I had, and
Wow.
it burst.
Mm.
And the procedure to go through the healthcare system here was not friendly at all. It was not nice, it was not friendly, and it went on for months. It was a long, ongoing, really traumatic process. So my precepts does not start off with anger. It starts off with, just for today, I will not worry. I will not get angry. I will work hard, give thanks, be kind to others. It's really short. And then I repeat it. And what I have learned to do, the days when I am really in a hurry, I realize that I say the precepts a bit faster. So now what I do is, if I start off saying them fast, I start to slow it down.
Mm.
So even when I sit, I'm going to leave that gasho in a calmer state, right? And I just want to tell people, sometimes, we read a manual and we are very, black and white with, should I say everything as is? Do I need to stick to the precepts in a particular way? And initially I did. I had the manual, I wrote out everything exactly as I learned it. And over time, the practice is yours.
Mm.
There's no judgment, there are no errors.
Yeah.
So I modify the precepts to suit me. But it's a very powerful practice. So that's how I do it. Sometimes I try to do it on the afternoon. It's difficult. I may quicker just do self Reiki, 1 or 2 positions, but definitely on a morning, I do the Gasho meditation. I do not do the full 20 minutes. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 5. So that's how I incorporate the precepts. And sometimes for example, if I'm doing a post on Instagram, so I modify the precepts. So sometimes I use it just for today. And then I try to encourage people, you can finish it however you like. It has to be yours. So just for today, I will see my life as an adventure. Just for today, I will love my cup of coffee. Just for today, I'm going to make someone smile. You know, so the just for today is you. It is you. Any single task that you do, just for today, can you look at any task that you do differently? Just for today, yeah. So if I put a post of like moving meditation, you know, I mean, put just for today, I will create harmony. You know, just for today, I will create stillness. So that's something recently that I've been trying to challenge myself to do. So you must make the practice yours.
Yeah. Trusting yourself, that inner knowing that comes with practice.
Yeah.
I'm sure you are an excellent student. I could just imagine you with your manual doing everything the right way, but just growing in your own personal development and healing journey, you're able to share that message with others that we can learn to trust ourselves, especially as women. I think that's a really important message.
I think so, because there's also a lot of comparison and judgment. And for some reason, we feel as if we are doing the wrong thing if we don't follow the black and white. If I don't do my practice exactly as this other person, then I'm lacking. It comes from a place of lack. And even though I tweak certain things, of course, initially I felt as if I would be judged because I saw other practitioners sticking to the original precepts, how it's written, and I didn't want to be judged. But then I just found it was for me. It matched me, it matched my lifestyle. And interestingly, what happened was one day I got a message from a practitioner, and it almost felt as if, you know, she found what I was doing was so inspiring that she wrote back and she said, you know, you are actually encouraging me to think, how am I going to do my own spin on what I've learned in theory? You know, the book, the manual is just a guide. How you live, how you practice, and the inner peace that you get is what we all want at the end. And that is what, you know, as you said, when we talk about recovery, it comes down to the inner peace and the love that we should have for where we are.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I just have one last question. I want to know what the most surprising thing has been for you since you started practicing Reiki. What came up that you just couldn't have imagined?
There are so many things that
Yeah, right?
there are so many things that have happened. But the most surprising thing, the first thing that came up to my mind was when I got an invitation to be on Reiki Ray's Reiki Summit. And the reason why that was the most surprising thing is because I had subscribed to their newsletter since the beginning. So I'm always accustomed to getting, you know, they have the Reiki calendar, their monthly calendar, the articles. So I'm there, you know, it's in the inbox. And sometimes I have all these newsletters in the inbox. And I may just see the title and not open it until a really long while after. So I always remember the name at the end would have been Maria at the end of the Reiki Rays newsletter. And one day I saw an email, I saw the newsletter, a couple other newsletters, and then I saw something from Maria. And I said, okay, probably another newsletter. So in fact, I didn't open it until the next week. And when I opened it, I'm reading I'm reading the email. And you know, sometimes the mass email is personalized for your name. So hi Akleema. So I'm reading. And then within the first paragraph, it is, you know, we would, you know, this is an invitation. We would love to have you as a, you know, a featured guest speaker. And I couldn't move past that first paragraph. I'm like, hold on, what is this? What is this email about? And it's a long email because they're giving you different ideas on if you want to speak different things, the trends, unless you want to give. And I stared at that email for a long while because the very first thing that came up to me was, how am I getting this invitation? Where is this invitation coming from? I mean, I don't even think I'm qualified to be on on the summit. And so I had to sit for a while before I replied to her and tell her what topic I would like to present on. And the topic I presented on was vision boards, because I was really deep with vision boards, and it was a really powerful, powerful technique for manifestation for me. But Lynn, definitely, I would tell you, when I got that newsletter, it was the most shocking thing I've ever received on my Reiki path.
I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know, yeah, Reiki Raise is such a great resource. They have just articles on every possible aspect that connects to Reiki and healing. I think it's a great thing.
It's super.
Um,
And I really do love their, when they have the calendar for the month and there's a daily task, just to remind you of how simple it is to do gratitude or Reiki. And I like
yeah,
those reminders at times.
thank you for bringing that up. I've forgotten to check. Yeah. Any last thoughts that you want to share? Thank you so much for your time. This has been really interesting.
Oh, I just found, I mean, we could talk for hours. I believe we can talk for hours, but I know our schedule is packed. But
Yes.
Lynn, I just want to thank you so much for reaching out. And it was since last year. And I did say we would do it definitely this year because my schedule was too packed.
Yeah.
And it is truly, truly amazing to meet up with you, both Andrea and Lynn. And I'm very, very grateful for the space that you've created, even this space. Because if I did not have this space, I would not have this, the ability to share this amazing conversation that we're having right now with anybody else. And that's the truth.
Oh, thank you. That is so beautiful. We're really grateful for your time and your sharing. Andrea, did you have any last thoughts?
I just wanted to comment on your beautiful artwork behind you in the background. You were sharing with me before we started recording about how art has been a part of your healing journey. And I think that that's something that other folks should really, when they're looking at your links, which I know you'll share with us, I think that that's something that's really important too, because it has the potential for a lot of healing to happen with those creative interventions.
Definitely. And it's so transformative. And it's so interesting that we both delved into art at the same point in time, almost as if it was, a calling for the collective.
Yes.
And definitely, so the name of this one is Vortex, which represents holy fire energy, and the other one is ancestral healing.
Perfect.
Yeah. So these were some of the very first pieces that I did before I moved on to another hand series, which is what I have on my social media links as well. So I'll share those with you all.
Thank you. I'm going to look at that very closely. I love your energy and I love the energy in those pieces. It really, it felt so good to be with you. And I felt a lot of peace being with you in your presence. So thank you for that.
Yep,
Thank you so
me
much,
too.
Lynn.
Felt so much peace. I could just relax and have this conversation for hours, just like you said.
Correct. Thank you so much.
I hope we get to meet in person soon.
Cross
Me
fingers.
Yes. All right. Thanks everyone for
Thank
watching, and we
you.
will
Thank
see
you,
you again soon. Thank you, Akleema. Wonderful to talk to you today.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.